This week on Choice Hacking. Many years ago in India, the story goes, there was a cobra infestation in the city of Delhi. So the British created a bounty for cobra skins. They thought by offering a reward for dead cobras, the public would solve the snake problem. But instead of capturing feral cobras and killing them, people started farming cobras for their skins. The British eventually got wise to the cobra farming industry and they canceled the bounty. But with no bounties to collect, the cobra farmers set their snakes free in the city, making the infestation even worse than before. It's from this likely ahistorical story that the so-called Cobra Effect gets its name. This principle says that when you offer people rewards or incentives, they can sometimes backfire and make things even worse. I'm Jennifer CLINEHENS, and you're listening to Choice Hacking, a podcast about applying behavioral science and psychology to business, marketing, experience design, and more. Join me today as we examine the Cobra Effect, the systems that have fallen victim to it, and how you and your brand can outsmart it. But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Choice Hacking Academy's newest course, How to Win More Clients with Science. If you work in an agency or consultancy, you're a freelancer or a service industry entrepreneur, winning new clients is the lifeblood of your business. But selling your services can feel scummy, fake, and honestly mysterious when you don't understand the psychology behind why clients buy. Luckily for us, behavioral science and psychology aren't just about nudging our clients' customers. They can also help us grow our businesses too. This course took me hundreds of hours to research and thousands of hours of sometimes painful real-world experience to put together, so I hope you'll join me. To learn more and decide if it's right for you, visit choicehacking.com/clients. That's choicehacking.com/CLIENTS. Now on to the show. Coined by German economist Horst Siebert, the Cobra Effect is one of those pesky quirks of human behavior. Set up a reward and people try to game it, finding loopholes where you least expect and ruining the best laid plans of businesses and bureaucrats. In Bogota, Colombia, the city was battling high levels of pollution caused by excess traffic. So the local politicians had a brilliant idea. They would reduce the number of cars on the road. And as bureaucrats are apt to do, they created a law to address the issue. It only allowed people to drive on certain days of the week. And to keep everything straight, the day you could drive was determined by the last two numbers on your license plate. That setup seemed pretty reasonable to the people in charge, but to lots of families, especially where both parents worked, it was a big problem. They needed to drive every day. But they were upright citizens. They didn't want to break the law by doing something sketchy like buying an illegal license plate and switching it out. So they just found a legal loophole in the system. They bought more cars, sometimes up to 4 cars for a single family. The result was more cars on the road, which meant more pollution. The Cobra Effect in action. When a bank wants to make more money, what do? Getting existing customers to open more accounts is an easy way to improve their bottom line. And that's exactly what American bank Wells Fargo tried to do. They offered their employees incentives and created quotas for getting old customers to open new accounts. But with bonuses for management and punishments for others on the line, it was clear that this scheme was the perfect setting for the Cobra Effect to rear its head. And that is exactly what happened. Many employees resorted to secretly opening accounts in customers' names, forging signatures, and other unethical practices. This attempt to improve its bottom line created a customer experience, legal, and PR fiasco for Wells Fargo.
With the first pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trayvon Walker, Linebacker, Georgia.
In our last example of the Cobra Effect, let's talk about the NFL. Now, for those of you not in the US, that's the National Football League. And in the NFL, the order in which a team can pick players in the annual draft is down to their performance in the previous season, among a few other factors. That reward seems fair at face value, since teams with worse performance would hypothetically be able to draft better players and improve. But in 2021, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross, was suspended for 6 games after allegedly encouraging the team to lose games on purpose so they could increase their draft position. Brian Flores, the former Dolphins head coach who blew the whistle, even suggested that he was offered his own incentives, monetary bonuses, to throw games. When the NFL offered a reward in the form of a higher draft position to teams with low performance, they inadvertently fell victim to the Cobra Effect. Now, anytime you deal with a reward or an incentive, even a punishment, you're likely to run across the Cobra Effect in some form or fashion. But if you're the one in charge of designing these rewards, it pays to know how to avoid it. Stephen Levitt, economist and Freakonomics co-author, suggests 2 ways to avoid the Cobra Effect. First, create simple incentives. The more complicated you make a scheme, the easier it is to find loopholes. And second, when you're designing these incentive programs, try to outsmart yourself. Before you put a reward scheme in place, try and figure out a way to game it. Then adjust your program accordingly. You may not be able to avoid perverse incentives completely, but being aware is the first step to beating them. Thank you for listening to the Choice Hacking Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on social media. It takes me 20 plus hours to put together every episode, and it's a huge help when you share it with your LinkedIn, Twitter, or even your TikTok followers. And don't forget, you can learn more about behavioral science and psychology applied to business when you subscribe to the free Choice Hacking email list. You'll join more than 7,000 brilliant UX, CX, and marketing folks from companies like Google, Coke, and Disney who get my newsletter. To sign up, just visit choicehacking.com/subscribe. That's choicehacking.com/subscribe. Until next time.
I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets.